my YouTube channel. So, have you ever seen a dashboard and thought, wow, I would like to build this and have it in my portfolio? Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build a very attractive and interactive and informative dashboard using Power BI. Now, there's something I'm going to tell you about this dashboard. This is a very big secret that I've never told anyone before. I hope no one is watching. So, this dashboard actually got me an $800 per month remote gig. Yes, you heard me right. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build this dashboard step by step. It doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or a professional, this tutorial is for you. So in this tutorial, firstly, we are going to be using a very messy data set. When I say messy, I mean this data set is messy. We'll be dealing with inconsistent data type, eliminating non-numerical characters. So after cleaning this very messy data using the Power Query editor, we are going to be hopping into building a boardroom ready dashboard. We are going to be making use of interactive slicers, and for visualizing our KPI, we are not going to be using the normal card boring KPIs. No, we are going to be doing something different. So if you're ready to go from raw messy data to a boardroom ready visuals, then this tutorial is for you.
Don't forget to hit the like, type subscribe, and let's dive in. Thank you so much for watching. So this is the dashboard we are going to be recreating. So the first thing we have to do is let's just go ahead and open our Power BI. Okay, so our Power BI has been successfully opened, right? So the first thing we have to do is let's just go ahead and save this. So let's save this as Power BI tutorial 2. So why I'm saving this as 2 is because we actually have another Power BI tutorial on the YouTube channel already. So we have to go ahead and calculate the KPIs, that is the key performance indicators. So as you see here, we have the total cost of goods sold, we have the total profit, we have the units sold, we have the total sales. So this simply means that we are going to be calculating these 4 KPIs, okay? So we are going to be creating measures to calculate those 4 KPIs. But before we go ahead to calculate the KPIs, we need to first import our data set. Now to do that, we go to get data, then we go to CSV. Now this, we can go to downloads, then we look at for our data set, which is called financials. Then we can go ahead and open this. Now this is a preview of our data set. Now, we can simply go ahead and load this data set directly to our dashboard and start building our visuals. But we are not going to do this because when you thoroughly look at this data set, you will find that we have a couple of data cleaning and transformation to do. Okay, so because of that, instead of loading this directly, we are going to be loading it to our Power Query using the transform data so we can perform our data cleaning. Now, there's something I want you to pay attention to. When you go to this delimiter in Python, I have encountered this issue severally and even in Power BI. Now, in Python, there are some times when I have actually loaded a data set into Python, okay, using pandas. Then I find out that the data set is not appropriately arranged because I am using the wrong delimiter. Now I have to go ahead and specify the delimiter that is the correct one, maybe a comma or whatsoever the correct delimiter should be to actually ensure that the data set is properly arranged. Okay. But now in this situation, the delimiter is comma, which is appropriate because this data set is a comma separated value. That means a CSV file. But let's say, for example, you upload this data set and the delimiter is a colon instead of a comma. As you can see that the data set is looking inappropriate. Okay. So what we just so what you just have to do is go ahead and change it to comma or whatsoever delimiter it should be, and it will go back to normal, right? Now, when you look at these data sets, you can see that we have several columns like the segments, the country, the products, the discount bound, units sold, manufacturing price, and the rest of them. Now, when you go ahead and look at these data sets, you will find out that we have in the numerical columns, we have, for example, this discount column, we have dollar negative. Okay, so this should be eliminated. And we also have other non-numerical characters like the dollar and the comma sign in some numerical columns, which will also pose as a big challenge when we are actually changing our data type. Now let's go ahead and see how that works. So we actually just click on transform data and this opens up our Power Query. Now this is our Power Query editor. Now our Power Query editor is where we perform all our data cleaning and data transformation before we actually load it into our dashboards to start building our dashboard or start doing our data modeling. So you have to first of all clean your data before you do your data modeling, then before you start doing your dashboard building. But for this particular video, even though for this project, we actually did our data cleaning, data modeling, and dashboard. But for this particular tutorial, we are concentrating on the data cleaning and the dashboard building. So we will upload a different tutorial where we'll be concentrating on data modeling alone. Now let's move ahead. Now, when you look at these applied steps here, for any step we actually carry out, it will actually be shown here. Okay. And in case we feel like we shouldn't have carried out that step, or maybe we made a mistake while carrying out that step, we can simply undo the step by clicking this, right? This bad sign here, we can simply undo it by clicking it. So one beautiful thing about Power Query is it is non-destructive, which simply means that every step you take can always be undone or undone, right? Now, when you look at these segments, right, let's go ahead and analyze this segment. When you look at this segment here, you will find out that we have 5 different segments where we have the channel partners, the enterprise, government, mid-market, and small business. Now, one thing you need to look at here is there at this left hand side, okay, this tells us the data type that a particular column is. Now, when you look at this ABC, when you click at this on this ABC, these are the various data types we have in Power BI. Now, when you look at this, you will find out that this is a text. This data type is a text, okay? In Python, we call it a string. So this data type is a text. Now, when you look at this, you find out that it is actually on its appropriate data type, which is text. So this simply means that we don't really have to do anything here. All we just have to do is leave it the way it is and move along, right? Now, another thing you have to pay attention about is here, right? This particular place, it actually carries a lot of information. Now, this tells us if any of our row is empty. This tells us if all our data is valid. And this tells us if we have any error in our column. So while you're always, so anytime you're working in Power BI, always pay attention to this, especially the empty and the error columns. Now, when we also go to our country, let's go ahead and analyze this. When you click on this, you find out that we have Canada, we have France, we have Germany, we have Mexico, and we have the United States of America. So these are the 5 different countries we have. Now, when you look at this here, you find out that it is showing that this is actually a text, right? Which is correct because all these countries are in text. They are not coded. They are not encoded. Where we have 1 for Canada, 0 for Germany, 2 for Mexico, and so on and so forth. So all these are in text, okay? So which means that this data type is appropriate. Now let's move ahead. Now, when you look at the products, now let's go ahead and analyze the products. Now, we are seeing that we have various products where we have the Amarilla, Paratara, Montana, Pasio, Velo, and VTT. So these are the various products that are being marketed by this particular company, right? Now, when you look at this place, you find out that it is telling us that this particular product is a text, the data are 100% valid, the error is 0%, and we have 0 missing values or null values. So this simply means that we are okay with this particular column. Now let's move ahead. Now let's look at the discount band. Now when you click on this discount band, you see that we have high, low, medium, and none. Now, what this is simply telling us that we have some countries or some goods or some products that the company gives high discount on, low discount on, medium discount on, or no discount, none at all, right? Now, when you look at this here, it's simply showing that this is a text, right, which is actually appropriate or correct. Now, let's move ahead. Now, when we come to the unit sold, okay, when you look at this, you find out that unit sold is a numerical column, right? But here now, it is being treated as text. The data type is showing text, which is inappropriate. Now, in Python, we call this a float data type, but in Power BI, it is actually called a decimal number data type, okay, because it has point. All right. Now, one thing you need to know is that we go ahead and click here and try changing this data type directly to decimal number, which is the appropriate data type, we are going to incur an error. Now, as you can see, once we try changing it to the decimal data type, we incurred this error right here, right? As you can see that it is showing 100% error, okay? And none of the data is valid, right? Now, like I mentioned, that when you look at the right hand side here, you can always undo any step you have actually carried out if you feel like you did the wrong thing, right? And that is one beautiful thing about Power Query. Now, what we have to do is we simply go here and click here to undo that step, okay? As you can see, everything has gone back to the original. Now, you might be asking, we can't directly change the data type, okay? How can we then change the data type? For us to change the data type adequately, we must first eliminate all the non-numerical characters. Now, when you look at this data here, you find out that we have various non-numerical characters like the dollar sign and the comma, right? Now, how can we eliminate this dollar sign and the comma to ensure that we just have our figures left, our numerical figures left, so we can be able to change it to our appropriate data type? Now, there are two ways we can actually eliminate these non-numerical columns. The first way is by using the split column. We can simply split by delimiter, right? We can simply split by delimiter, go here and custom it, then put the then insert the dollar sign and split by the dollar sign. But for the course of this tutorial, we are not going to do that. Instead, we are going to be using the replace values method, right? Now, to do this, what we have to do is simply go to replace values, okay? Then once you click on the replace values, this box is going to open up. Now it is going to tell you value to find. So this simply means which value do you want to replace? In this situation, we are trying to replace the dollar sign, right? And now it is asking you which value do you want to replace this dollar sign with? Because we do not want to replace these dollar signs with anything, we just have to leave it empty and go ahead and click OK. Now, once you go ahead to investigate this, you will find out that all the dollar signs has been successfully eliminated. But again, we still go ahead and try to change this data type to decimal. It is going to work, but this will give us a huge problem when we are performing our data modeling and when we are also building our measures using that. Now, this is not the right thing to do. We have to eliminate this. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to eliminate the comma signs. So what we have to do is we go ahead and click on change on replace values like we did the last time. Then we say comma, then we replace with nothing, then we say okay, right? So now we have successfully eliminated the comma signs, right? Then we can simply go ahead and right click. We can simply go ahead and right click and then click on change type, then decimal number. Boom. So that works perfectly. Now, let's go ahead and analyze the manufacturing price. Now, when you look at the manufacturing price, you can see that we also have non-numerical characters like dollar, When you also look at the sell price, you also see that we have non-numerical characters like dollar. Now, when you look at the gross sales, you also see that we have non-numerical characters like dollar and comma, the same way we had in the unit sold, correct? Now, let's go ahead. Now, instead of us to go ahead and change this one after the other, we can simply go ahead and change them at once. So, how do we do that? So what we do is we go ahead and click on the manufacturing price column. We hold down our shift button, then click on the two other columns, right? So once we click on the two other columns, the next thing we have to do is we right click and click on replace values. Then we go ahead and put our dollar sign, nothing, right? We also right click again and click on replace columns. Then we go ahead and put our comma sign, okay, and nothing, right? Now, when we go ahead and analyze these columns, you will find out that we have successfully eliminated the non-numerical characters, right? We have successfully eliminated the non-numerical characters. So we can now go ahead and change the data type, right? Now, to change the data type, we just have to click on the three columns and then click on decimal. Now, this has actually changed the data types, right? Now, let's move ahead. Now, the next thing we are looking at is the discount column. Now, let's analyze the discount column. Look at the discounts column, you see that here we have dollar dash. Okay, so it simply means that some rows in these columns are just filled up with dollar dash. Okay, now we also have the non-numerical column dollar sign and the comma sign, right? Now let's go ahead and analyze down. I think that's all we have. Now, the first thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and click on replace values, right? The first value we have to replace is dollar dash, right? Dollar dash, right? So this is the value we are going to replace. Now, you know that before we always leave this as empty, but in this situation, we are going to be filling it as zero. Why are we filling it as zero? Because if we leave this particular replaced with as empty, it simply means that some of our rows will be empty, right? Which will also pose as a problem. X, we want to go ahead and start eliminating those empty rows. But for the case of this tutorial, we are just going to fill it with zero because zero is a numerical character or number. So we go ahead and say okay. Now, as you can see, all the dollar, as you can see, all the dollar dash has been replaced with zero, right? So the next thing we have to do is go ahead and eliminate the comma and the dollar sign. Now to do that, we can just put dollar here, then empty. Then we also put replace values. Then we say comma empty. Now, when we check this again, you find out that we have successfully cleaned up this data, right? Now, the next thing we have to do is change data type. We can simply go here and click on decimal number, and our data type has been appropriately changed. Now, let's go ahead and look for sales. Now, when you look at sales, you find out that we also have our dollar sign and our comma sign, right? So when you also look at cost of goods sold, you will find out that we also have our dollar sign and our comma sign, right? Now let's look at profit. When you look at profit, you find out that profit is being written more complex. Why? In profit, we have this open and close brackets, then we have this dollar sign, and we also have the comma, right? So we would have said, let's go ahead and change these three columns together, but I would like us to handle profit separately so we see how we end up handling it, right? Now, the first thing we have to do here is we just have to click these two columns here. Then we right click and click on replace values, right? Put in our dollar sign. Then, as usual, we'll leave this as empty. Then we go ahead and say okay. Now, the next thing we have to look at is eliminating the comma signs, right? So we click on replace values, then we add our comma, then we say okay, then it replaces it. Then we also right click and go to change type, then decimal number. Now, this has also appropriately changed our decimal numbers. Now, just go ahead and investigate this to see how clean this column is now looking, right? See how clean they're looking, right? Now, the next thing we have to work on is our profits column, right? Now, let's go to our profits column. Now, in our profits column, as we mentioned earlier, we have these non-numerical characters and we also have the dash, the opening and closing bracket, right? Now, how do we eliminate that? The same process. What we have to do is go ahead and look at change replace values, right? Then we go ahead and put opening and close brackets here. Then we leave it empty. Then we say okay. Okay, when you go ahead and look at this, you find out that our opening and closing bracket is still there. That's because we are doing something wrong. Okay, now what are we doing wrong, right? So let's just go ahead and undo this and go ahead and also undo this, right? Now, what we have to do is let's go ahead and click on replace values. Now, remember the first time we did opening and closing, right? Which is inappropriate because these two brackets are not together. Because before the closing bracket comes, there is a number inside of it. There are figures inside of it before the closing bracket. Now, this is why the first step did not work. So what we just have to do is go ahead and remove this and click OK. Now, when you look at it, you find out that all the opening bracket has been eliminated, right? All the opening brackets has been eliminated and we just have some closing brackets, right? Now, the next thing we have to do is also eliminate those closing brackets. So we go ahead and put the closing brackets, then we say, okay, then this will be eliminated. So you find out that all our closing brackets also has been eliminated, which is what we were trying to achieve. Now, the next thing we have to do is go ahead and replace values. Then we replace our dollar sign. Then we say, okay. Then the next thing we have to do is go ahead and replace our comma. And we say, okay. Now, let's go ahead and view this. Now, when you go ahead and view this, you find out that we have actually successfully replaced those signs, non-numerical signs. But now, there is another thing we should notice. Now, you can see that we have this dash, right? Which simply means that some of the rows in our profit column is just having a dash, right? Now, what did this dash entail? It means that some of the columns, it was not told if a profit was made or not, okay? So it was just filled with a dash. Okay. Now, how do we handle this? To handle this, we just go ahead and replace this dash with zero. Right. Now, to do this, what we have to do is because if we do not replace that dash with zero, it is actually going to pose as a problem when we try to change our data type. Now, let's go ahead and try changing our data type so you see what I'm talking about. Now, when we go ahead and click this, you find out that it comes with error, right? We have 1% error. Now, when we try scrolling down, right, you will find out that we will have rows with error. Let's go down, okay? As you can see, we have rows with error. So this must be those rows that has dash in them, right? So what we just have to do is, as you can see, that's the error we are actually having, right, in our profit column, right? Now, what we just have to do here is, let's go ahead and check this, right? Let's go ahead and check this, right? So let's just go down here, go down here, okay? So we have actually, this is just change when we change the data type for these columns, right? Now, for our profit, what we just have to do is we just have to go ahead again and replace, just have to go ahead again and replace dollar with nothing, right? Then we also have to go again and replace comma with nothing, right? Then we just have to go again and We'll check this. We just have to go again and replace dash. Dash with nothing. Okay, go and change. We'll go ahead and replace dash with 0. And we can go ahead and change to this. I'll go ahead and change to decimal. Change 8% error. As you can see now, we have successfully replaced the dash with 0 and eliminated our non-numerical characters. Now, the next thing as you can see, we are having 0 error here now. Now, the next thing we have to look at is the months, year, and so the next thing we have to look at is the year, month, number, and date column. Okay. So for the course of this tutorial, I'm just going to eliminate this column by clicking remove columns. Now, from what we have seen, we can say that we have successfully cleaned up our data set, okay, and made it ready for our analysis, right, with 0 error. Now, the next thing we have to do is go ahead and close and apply steps. So as you can see, our data has been successfully loaded. Okay, our data set has been successfully loaded. Okay, now this is our model. Okay, this is our model building space where we can actually create relationships between our data sets. Okay, now as we mentioned, we are not going to be analyzing, we are not going to be working on this in this tutorial. But for here, what we simply have to do is this is our facts table. So what we have to do is create our various dim table like our date dim date table, and we can also create our dim products table. But for this tutorial, we are not going into this. We are going to be creating another tutorial where we'll be handling our data modeling. Now, what we have to do is go into our data visualization. So now we can go ahead to start working on our data visualization. I'm so excited about this. So the first thing we can go ahead and insert the shape, right? Now we can go ahead and do this. Let me just take this up a bit. Okay. Now that is black. Okay. So we can go ahead and go to shape, tie, then we can change it to black. Okay. I think that is looking like it, right? We have to move this down. Okay. Now, before we actually go ahead, I would like us to calculate our key performance metrics. Here we have the total sales, the units sold, the total profit, and the total cost of goods sold. Okay. Now, which simply means that we actually have 4 KPIs we actually have to calculate. Okay. Now, the first thing we have to do is let's go ahead and go to modeling, right? Then let's click on new measure. Now this will open our DAX. Okay. Now the first measure we need to calculate is let's calculate our total sales. Total sales equals to. Now to calculate our total sales, we just have to get the sum of sales. Okay, now to do that, we use the sum, okay, then financials, which is the name of our data sets, then sales. Okay, then we have to close this. Then we go ahead and okay this. Okay, so as you can see, we have successfully created our total sales. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is we also have to create another measure. Okay, now let's go to home, let's go to model, let's go to new measure. Now let's this new measure, we are going to call it total cost of goods sold. Total cost of goods sold. Now this should be equals to the sum total of cost of goods sold. Okay, so this should give us sum. Okay, cost of goods sold. Then we close this. All right, so we okay this. Okay, now that measure has successfully been created. Now the next thing we have to do is create another measure, and the next measure we are creating is total profits. To get total profits, what we have to do is we have to say total profits. Okay. Now this should be equals to the sum total of profit. Okay, I think we are having sum of profits. Okay. Now this gives us our total profit. Then let's go ahead and okay that. Go ahead. I think that is okay. No total profit. Okay, that's done. So we can just go ahead and close this, right? So we can go back to home. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is global sales profitability dashboard. So we just have to go to insert, then we need to look for our text box. This is our text box. Then we can simply make this bigger because this is looking a bit smaller. Then we say global sales profitability dashboard. Mhm. Now we can go ahead and highlight this, and let's change this to Georgia. Then let's increase this to 14. Let's make it to 24. And let's take this. Okay, no. Now let's take this a bit further. Then reduce this a bit. Then we have to move this. We have to change the color first to, we can change it to white. Then we have to move this here, here. Okay. Then as you can see, this is actually having a background, right? So to remove the background, we go to general, properties, effects, and turn off the background. Okay. Then it shows up correctly. We can then move this down a bit. Okay. So we have it as global sales profitability dashboard. So which is exactly the same thing we have here, right? So this is actually looking way bigger. So we can reduce this to 20. Okay, so it suits the dashboard we are trying to replicate. The next thing we have to do is let's go ahead and okay, we have to achieve our KPIs. Okay. Now, how do we do that? Let's go ahead and insert a shape. Okay. Now, but before going ahead to visualize our KPI, we need to achieve this bar here. Okay. Now to do that, let's go ahead and of course shape. Then we click on rectangle. Now we can go ahead and push this down here a bit, then increase it and go ahead and push this here a bit, then push this a little. Then we can just go ahead and style and change to black, right? Then we can go ahead and format, okay? Then we can go ahead and send to back, okay? So now that works. Now, if you actually look at this properly, you will see that we actually have a border, okay? I'm saying like a blue border, which shouldn't be so. So we can just go ahead to style, okay? Then we turn off border. We go ahead to style, then we also turn off border for this. So this is looking better, right? Okay, but we can also leave the border for this, but we just have to change the color, right? Now let's change the color of the border. Okay, the color of the border is black already. Now we can simply change it to white. Okay, now this is making sense for this. Now let's go ahead and check. The next thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and visualize our KPIs. As you can see, this KPI we used here is not the normal hard KPI. Okay. Now we are going to be downloading a new visual, okay, called Cards with States by Oakvis. Okay. Now to do that, what we have to do is we go to get more visuals. Now we go to app for visuals. Okay. Now we just type card with states. Okay, so this is the visual we actually use for our KPIs, card with states by Obris. Okay, now all you just have to do is go ahead and download that visual, okay, to our Power BI. So we'll wait for it to load up. Then we'll go ahead and just add it. So once you add it, it will actually show up here. All right. Now it shows the visual was successfully imported into this report. So we can say okay. Now we can go ahead to start visualizing our KPIs. Now to visualize our KPIs, since we have successfully downloaded our hard with states by OV, all right. So what we have to do is just go ahead and click here. Okay. So let's just go ahead and make this smaller, right? So we just move this here and leave it here for now. So the next thing we have to do is we have to add our a shape, okay? Then we just go ahead and use this. So go ahead to reduce this and okay, this is looking great, right? Let's check, looking quite bigger. So we go ahead to reduce it, okay? Then we can make it smaller. Then we can go ahead to style, then change to white, right? Then we add shadow. Okay. Now, after adding shadow, you will see that this particular, we actually have a border here, all right, a blue border. So we actually have to remove that. So to remove that, we go to our format, right? We just have to click this, then we go to style, then turn off border. Now we can go ahead and visualize our total cost of goods sold, which is the first thing we are going to be visualizing here. So to do that, what we have to do is we just go ahead and click on this, right? Then we go to our visuals. Then we can add our total cost of goods to measure. All right. Now we can simply go ahead and maybe adding conditioning. When total sales is high, it turns to red. When total sales is low, it turns to blue or whatsoever. But we are not doing that here now. So the next thing we have to do is, as you can see, we have this over here, all right? This straight line over here. So this trend line. So to add it, we simply have to go to our visual, all right? And let's scroll down to trend line axis. Then we can move our dates there. Okay. Now, as you can see, the trend line is showing, right? Now we have to go ahead and format this, right? So let's just click here. Okay. So this is how we achieved this particular visual here. So we can go ahead and format the colors. All right. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and actually format this visual, right? Now let's go ahead and go to trade line, right? So the trend line, we can change color to pink. All right. Now let's check what we are doing. Okay, pink. Then I change the background color to light pink. Okay, this is not visible enough. Let's change it to okay. Now you see this is making more sense, right? Now this is looking too light for my liking. So let's just take this down, right? Then let's go to card. Let's take this off. Then we need to look for card. Let's say down. Take this off. Then let's just leave it there. So I have to change the background color again to this. Right. That's what we have here. But what do I really feel like we should leave it as white? White is making more sense to me, but well, let's leave it as how it was. Okay. Now so that's that for that. So let's move ahead to data label. Okay, so this is black. Let's change it to dim, right? Then let's change this black to blue. Okay, so we can close this then. Then category label. So we can change this to black, right? Okay, then let's change this to dim too. Okay, this is looking much better. Now we can just reduce this a bit, right? Then we can simply move it to here, right? Looking bigger, but we don't want to lose what we have been working on. So let's make this a bit bold and longer. Then we can just move this here a bit. So let's move this here. Then let's take this up, right? Then we can move this here. Okay. Now this is making more sense, but we have to format it and then let's bring it to front. Okay, now this is making much sense. All right, making much sense. Then we can move this to here, move it down. Okay, so for this, okay, I don't know why this is coming up, but let's remove it. So for this, we can still okay, we can leave it that way. Then I wanted to do something. Okay, I wanted to add a shadow to this visual. So we just go to add, then we can simply add a shadow. Okay, add a shadow. So yeah, but the shadow now is making it okay. So we can simply make this a bit bigger. Now I don't know why this is looking weird to me too, but I don't really like the look. I think I have to eliminate the shadow. Let's go to add then form of shadow. Form of shadow. This is looking a bit better. I should be able to move this. Right. Okay. So I think this is looking much better to me, right? Looking much better to me. Right. So this right now is giving me that vibe. Oh, it's not bright enough, right? So we need to let me do something about the shadow there. It's like shadow. Okay, now this is giving me what I want to say, exactly what I want to say. So I can increase this a bit, right? Okay, and I can also increase this a bit. We can always reduce it later. Okay, so this is giving me what I want to say, right? Now I can simply go ahead and copy this and duplicate it. Then I move it to here, right? So the next thing we can simply do here is to visualize our total profit. And remove this then. So we can simply copy this and paste it. So we can simply click here, then we copy this. You copy visual, then you paste visual. Then we can move it down to here, right? Then the next thing we can do is we just have to remove this, then change this to total profit. So this is it. So the next thing we can simply do is copy and paste also. Then we move this here. Then we also copy, you know, we take this out. Then we right click, then we copy visual, then we Ctrl V, we paste it. Copy visual, then you paste it. Okay, then you move it here, right? Then the thing we have to do is we have to what are we visualizing now? We are visualizing unit sold, right? So what we have to do is go over here, visual, then we remove this, then we remove unit sold. Wait, right? This is making sense now, right? Now the next thing we have to do is, of course, we can simply copy and paste this. Now this is actually looking bigger, right? Now it's looking bigger because we have visuals that we actually have to visualize the other side too. So what we have to do is, okay, we need to find a way to make this, we need to find a way to make this smaller. Okay, sorry. So but before that, we have to move this down here. Then we'll make this smaller, right? Just smaller. Then let's move this down here. And also delete this. Remove this and make this smaller. So we can copy and paste this. Then we can also move this, right? And we can also remove this. Let's remove this down. And we can also remove this, right? So we can also copy and paste this. This 4. We'll copy and paste again. Then this is 4, right? Then I think this is still looking too old. But we can move it down a bit, right? Moving it down, moving it down. So this is 4. Now let's check if, so for some reasons I feel like it's still quite big. Then we can actually remove this. We can actually remove this. And we can actually remove this, right? Now let's copy and paste this and see. And I think this is a bit too close. Okay, copy and paste it, then we'll see this. Right, move it a bit close. Copy and paste this, then move it a bit close. So this is looking better now. Remove this to this bit. So we have to do is move it a bit. Yes. move it a bit. So we simply move this a bit, move this a bit up. Okay, now it's looking reasonable. Now for consistency sake, we can just eliminate all these. Then we can just right click, then copy visual, right? Then we can move this here, right? For consistency sake, and we can change this to total profit. We change this to total profits, right? Just eliminate this and move total profits right here, right? Then we can still do the same for this. We move here, right? We move here. Then we can simply eliminate that one and change it to unit sold. So click on it, then go to measures, then we just drag down unit sold to here. Okay, now that's making much sense. Then likewise, you can just copy it and move this here, right? Move this here. Okay, so we just have to total sales, right? So what we have to do is just remove here, then push down total sales to this place. Now this is looking more reasonable for me. Now the next thing we have to do is let's achieve this line here. Now to do that, all we have to do is insert, then go to this, then you can just make it quite small to the very last. Then we can drag this up a bit, right? Then we can just move this up. Now this is making sense to me. So push this up, then push this down. Okay, let's take this down a bit. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we just have to format and send to back. Okay, let's send that to back properly. So let's send to back again. All right, so we can go ahead and change color to type, change color to this. This is looking more like it. Right, so the next thing we are creating is let's go ahead and achieve this. Right, now to achieve that, what do? We go ahead and create a ribbon chart. Right, so then let's push it down here. Right, then let's go ahead and insert. Then we can insert, then we can just do this, then we draw this here bit. Then we can just make this here bit, then let's check what we're achieving. Okay, this would be line down. Okay, making sense to me. Then we can simply format the shape, then we can just turn to before, then let's add shadow, then we turn to white. Now we see the lines there, right? The borders. Well, let's leave that for now. That's not the major focus. Then we can just move this here now, right? So, okay. So, what are we visualizing here? So, we are visualizing total sales by product, right? Total sales by product. So, what we have to do is total sales, no, total, okay, like total sales, total sales, sales by product. Okay, now that is what we are doing there. Now the next thing we have to do is let's go ahead and format this, right? Format visual. First thing I want to do is go to general, then I'll turn off the background. I think that's the first thing I want to do. Turn off background. So we off the background. Okay. Now this is making more sense. Then we can go to format, then let's bring it to front. So it will be hovering around. Now, okay, make this a bit bigger. Okay, then we can bring to front. Okay, then let's make it a bit smaller, right? Then this is actually making sense right now. So we can just let me take this down. Then let's move this a bit. Okay, now we can move this here. Right. Okay. Now let's look at what we have here. So the shells by okay. So all we have to do is format this. Let's go to slider. We're not adding that. So let's go to ribbon strength. So let's go to all, right? So we have Casio for blue. So we have to change that, right? Then we have Montana as red, right? Then lowest, then we have the rest. This is black and all shades of black, right? Then all shades of black and all shades of black. Now this shades of black, right? Why is this not so visible? So let's do this, right? Now there are some things we also need to change, like the text, right? Let's go to data labels. It's already off, so no need. So let's go to properties. Let's go to title. The thing that is true. Let's make it 10, right? So let's go to things better. I think that's all we have to do for that one. Then the next thing we have to do is net profits by country, right? Now to do that, we simply have to go to net profit by country. So you simply have to go to line and cluster charts, right? So that was the visual we actually used for that. All right. So the next thing we have to do is we just have to reduce the size of this. Then let's drag it into here. So for that one, we actually have net profit by country, right? So let's check um net profits by country, right? So as you can see for this, we actually have to create another measure, right? Now to do that, let's go ahead and to model the new measure. Okay. Always saying net profit is equal to some financials profits, and we can say okay to this. Okay, then what we simply have to do is we drag down net profit here, right? The net profit by country, then we'll put country here. Okay, so here we have France, Germany, and all, right? So next thing we have to do is reduce it to make sure it puts this properly. Okay, now then equal no. So then equal axis, right? Equal axis. Now we can simply go ahead and format this. The first thing I would do, like always, is removing background. So we go to effects, then we off the background, right? So I can increase this a bit now. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is let's go to format, right? So general, we can properties, titles, can reduce this, of course, use this to 10, right? Then the next thing we can do is we have to format the, go to effects. So background is already turned off, so property visual. So guideline is dotted. So you can simply say it's too solid, but I prefer always leaving it as dotted. Right. So next thing we can do is columns. Let's check columns. Then let's show all. Then let's go ahead and see what we have here. Okay, we change them to all black. So we can simply just go and click black. So everything changes to black. Okay. So okay. So that's it. So columns, color, spacing. So here is to reduce the spacing between the columns. So you can simply leave it this way. For here that much closer, but we can simply leave it this way though. Right? So increasing the spacing. Then let's go and turn on data labels. Right? So this is looking for data labels. Now the next thing we have to do is can go ahead and go to the next one, which is this. So to do that, we actually have to simply insert them. We insert, now we inserted the wrong visual. So we just insert this, right? So just it should be increased. So simply increase this to this, right? And making sure it stays at the center. Okay, then we can simply copy and paste, making sure they're both at the center, right? Okay, like we can simply increase this up, and we simply increase this up. Now this is looking great. Then of course change the colors white, then we add shadows, also change color, add shadow, and we change color to white. Now the next thing we have to visualize is this, right, which is our line chart. All right, but remember when we were actually on our in our power query, I was actually mentioning something about deleting some columns in that actually contains dates. Okay, but remember that before we actually built this dashboard, we performed our data modeling. Okay, but in this situation now we are not performing our data modeling. So what we have to do is I'll just go back to my Power Query, right, and delete those columns I mentioned. Okay, okay, you can simply just go here and just remove columns, right? Then we can just close and apply. Okay, it's applying. Okay, so the changes has been applied. Now the next thing we have to do is let's go ahead and open our line charts. All right, then here we have units sold by date. All right, so what we have to do here is units sold by dates. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is let's move it down to here. Okay, then we can increase this a bit. We can just increase and just format and bring this to front. Then we can reduce this bit. Then we can move it down a bit here. Then we can move this down a bit, right? Now the next thing we have to do is we have to, as usual, eliminate the background. So we simply have to go to General, Effects, and Turn off background, right? Now the next thing we have to do is we have to go to, okay, now we leave that on, and we, no, we leave this off. Then the lines, now the lines can be dotted, it can be dashed, it can be solid, right? So we just leave it as solid. Now we can make it a step, right? Then colors, we can change this to, of course, black, right? Then we can turn on markers, also turn on data labels. Okay, now we can also turn on our series labels. Okay, let's leave it in. So markers, we can turn this to this, and we can turn it to pink. So the next thing we are going to do is this right here. This is net profit and total sales by day. To do that, what we have to do is our line clustered column. Okay, to get a new shape, line clustered column, then just reduce it to suit. Then what we are actually looking at is net profit and total sales by dates. So net profits, and we have our total sales, then we have our dates, right? So let's look at that. Okay, So we just have to make it fit here. And we can increase here a bit, then just increase here a bit. Then we can go ahead to start formatting. So mostly what we just have to change is the color. So let's just go ahead and turn this to black. Go ahead and turn this to black. Marker on. Then the color of the marker should be changed to pink. Then let's do that as white. White. Then the line itself is what will be changed to pink. Line colors. They should be changed to pink. Right. Then the marker. And the marker should be left off. Marker should be left off. The columns should be changed to black. Then the text data series is already off. So let's go to general effect title should be reduced to 10. Okay, so I think that's basically it. Now the next thing we should be looking at is this, which holds our geographical location and our table. Right, to create the table, first what we have to do is just look at table, right? But before that, we actually have to create, oh no, hold on, we just have to move this here a little, then we can add, insert a shape, then we can move the shape down a bit, right? Then we can turn the shape to white, white with shadow. Then we can then move this table and reduce it. Okay, and move it and reduce it. Okay, take it down a bit. Then we can format, then we bring it to front. Now, what do we have in the table? We have profit, we have product, net profit, and debt. So, product, net profit, and debt. Product, net profit, and debt. So now what we have to do is we have to go ahead and customize the dates. Okay. So it looks like this, right? Now to do that, what we have to do is we simply have to go to this, then we go to here, we simply have to click on that first, then we go to, let's go to values, right? And let's change this to Tahoma. Okay. Let's reduce to, no, I think 10 looks better. Then let's go to, okay, I think we should leave this as this. Then let's go to values again. Mm. Okay, I think that's not what we are looking for. So let's just do column headers. So let's make column headers thin, right, and increase it and bold it. Okay, and we can increase it to 9. But let's leave it at 10. So it's looks small, looks bold. So we can change this to pink, okay? Or we leave it at black. I think black looks more simple. Okay. Then the next thing we have to do is let's click at specific columns. So let's look at the net profit column. Net profit column. Okay. Now let's make the background pink, right? Make the background pink, then we can make the values white. Okay. Well, that's looking better to me. So I think this pink is too deep. We can make this it's the same thing. And we can make this to this. All right. I think it's looking better. The next thing we have to look at now is our map. Okay. And to do that, we made use of a field map. So we just have to move it up a bit. And so, but before that, we need to add a shape below it, just like we have always done. So all we have to do is insert, then remove this up a bit, right? So we just move this up a bit, and we can just move this down, right? Then we can move this here a bit, okay? Now we can simply just change the color to white, and then we leave a shadow, white, and we leave a shadow. Then we can move this here, right? Then we can simply just remove background, remove background, okay? Before we go to that, I think we need to put our location. So that should be our country. Let's go ahead and move our country to here. Okay. Then we can simply format and bring to fonts, right? So we can simply format this now to be right inside our our piece. So that's it majorly. So that's it majorly. Now we have successfully achieved all this. So the next thing we have to look at is right here, right? Right here. And to do that, we have a slider for our product. So to achieve that, let's simply go and we first of all have to first of all have to insert a shape, because then we just make it smaller. Then we'll move it down a bit, right? Then we can just bring this a bit out. Okay. And we can just move this in a bit. A bit. Okay. Now for this, we can simply make it white, right? It's making sense to me. Now to achieve this overview, so I got this from Canva. So to do that, what we have to do is let's just go to Canva. Okay, we already have Canva here, so let's just close this and go to Canva. Then for that, all we just need to do is let's go to here. Okay, go to here. So we just have to search for overview icon. Then we go to graphics. Just have to look for exactly the same icon or something similar. So I think this is what we use. So we just have to turn this to white and then centralize this. Then we download on a transparent background. Then current page done, download. We have successfully downloaded that. So successfully downloaded that. So we just have to go here and then move it down here. Okay, move it down here, but it's not moving. So what we have to do is we just go to insert, add an image, then we download, then we click home, it then comes down. And we can simply just make it smaller, then we move here. Right, you can also make more smaller, then we move here. Okay, make sure it is centralized. Then we can move down a bit. Then we can insert a text box. Then we can call this overview. Then we can also increase this. Let's turn this to 12. Then let's make it bold. Then it should be white. But before making it white, let's go to effects and turn off background. Then we can simply reduce this, right? Then we can simply highlight, then turn to white. Then we can simply then move it here. Now we can simply move it to this place. Overview, overview. So we can simply make this a bit smaller. So this can come down. Okay. It can come down. Okay. So that was how we achieved that. All right. So avoid the, we can simply just, sorry, we'll simply just make wider or just make wider. Avoid that. I'll simply just move this. Okay. So this is it. So the next thing we have to do now is achieve the sliders we have here by the right hand side. So to do that, what we have to do is go to shape, then you just have to go to add new visuals, then we go to slicer, then we can just move this here a bit. But before that, let's just add the slicer is for product. So we just have to bring down product, right? So let's just see what we did here. Okay, so basically, so we just have to go to formatting, then let's see slicer setting. Let's turn on the search bar. Then let's see horizontal. Okay, so I think vertical looks better. Hmm. Selection, multi-selection is already on, which is okay. Then effects. background. Okay, the background should be left white. Oh no, background should be left this. Yep, so it shows better. Now we can simply, then let's reduce the value. Let's make it 10 or 9. And yeah, we can simply leave it in that font, so we can move it up a bit. Then we can reduce this, right? Or take it a bit down. Then we can simply format and bring to front. Okay. So the next thing we can do is we can simply right click, copy visual, then we can simply paste it for uniformity. So for this slicer rather, we have the segments, so we can simply come to the visual, then we remove this, then we replace it with segments. So we are just looking for the segments right now. Segments, okay, here we are. This is the segments, and okay. So what else are we missing? So let's go here and okay, so we have this question bar here. You want to ask questions, and we also have the slider here. And I also have the design by Tech Up Team tutorial available on YouTube channel. But I don't think for this tutorial this is not necessary since we're already designing this. I think all we have left is, let's see if we can just add this. Okay, so to add that, you simply go to button, right? Insert. So you should see yeah buttons, then it should be help button. So this should be here, right? So for this particular one, I simply added for this particular one, I simply added it as a website. So I think what I went to is shape, right? Style, and reflection on, right? So other option is back, then web URL. So what I did was I simply went to my, okay, no, my LinkedIn page is not attached there. So I simply went to my LinkedIn page. And I simply went to my LinkedIn page. Then I went to this and I copied this and I went back to home. Right. I went back to home, then I came back, then just added this here. Right. So that was it. So that was it basically. Then I think this looks perfect. All right. So for here, what we have to do is add a slicer here. Right. So I'll just go ahead and this. I'll just go ahead and right click copy visual. Then I can paste visual and I can move here, right? Okay. So I can simply decide to increase this and reduce this, right? So for this slicer, we can decide to use something else. So let's just make it a first eliminate gate. Um, let's make it a let's make it a we can do country for this, right? So we can do country for this. So we can simply search by country. This is but it's not visible here, so we can just simply search by country. Right, so you can simply move this to here, right? Let's make it a bit smaller. Let's make it a bit smaller, right? Then we can just simply change background to white. Simply change background to white. Effects background to white. So yes, I think it's better this way. So background to be white. So yeah, I think we can just leave this here. Mhm. So let's just move. No. So let's just move this forward. Format. Then let's bring it to front. So you. So I think this is basically it. Right. So this is basically it. Like I said, this is not necessary. This is not really necessary. So we can actually leave that. So we have come to. Okay, no, we took that down. So we have come to the end of our tutorial, right? So let's just go ahead and export this, right? Or let's just go ahead and let's just go ahead and save, right? So before we save as, let's save it as, okay, already has this. So just, yeah, I don't really know why it said that, but just replace it then. So we can go ahead and save as, can go ahead and save as, no, you can go ahead and export as PDF, right? So this opens it as PDF. So we can go ahead and choose a snipping tool to actually view it better. So we can just go ahead and use snipping tool and this, right? So we can go ahead and just save it. Gallery, right? Then we can come over here. Then we go to this and simply go ahead and move this down here. I want to visualize this here then. Wow. So this is our dashboard. So we have come to the end of the tutorial. If this is the first time you're seeing my video, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my video and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day ahead of you.